Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another half hour of Green Rush Live. We're here every Friday afternoon from 4 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern. We follow up our program as we do every week with our weekly Weed Talk News show, where we have reports from, I think we've got 6 different state reports this week. We've also got a interview with the High Times competition director, Mark Kaz, because the Cannabis Cup from High Times is coming to the Massachusetts area. And in fact, I know that there's a dispensary owner involved with that High Times competition cup because I gave you guys a plug on the news show. And I want to welcome in a couple of old friends and a new friend. Jeff, you're my new friend. Okay. Ulysses and Laury and I go back a few years. So get in line, pal. But again, thank you all for joining us. And of course, as always, my sidekick, David Rabinovitz, is with me. And of course, David, you know a lot of these people too, don't you?
Well, I know Laury very well. She and I, not together, but we were both trained in the social training program. And we ran a couple of sessions together. In fact, one, I believe, at Cush Grove in Mission Hill. That was the night I met your father.
Yes, we did. We go way back, David.
Yep. In fact, I was talking to Marcus and Mike yesterday.
There you go.
And she's still with her father. Where's Carl, Laury? There he is. Yeah.
Oh, look, there it is. Oh, that's great. We've had a dad sighting. I love that. Wave. You can wave. We love all dads.
Moms do.
And moms too. Well, isn't that funny? By the way, you know that saying, right? Whenever the athletes get on camera, they're always waving. Hi, mom. Right? It's always the mom that gets the shout out, not the dad, right?
Nah, we get both dad and mom right now.
I like equal time. That's what it's about. Well, first of all, we should mention that both Laury and Ulysses have opened up Major Bloom, which is a new adult use dispensary in the Worcester, Massachusetts area. Jeff is giving you a silent salute with a round of applause there. That's congrats, because Jeff is in the process, I believe, of trying to open. Am I right, Jeff? You got to unmute yourself. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I'm in the process of trying to get open. So that's supposed to be happening within the next 6 to 8 months. So, we in line. Absolutely. We got a provisional around the same time. Major Bloom got theirs as well. So they got their license to operate, and we got a provisional. So here we are. So I'm trying to let next level in line.
Congratulations.
What's the location?
I'm sorry?
What's your location?
Dorchester. I'm in Boston. 571 Washington Street, Dorchester. 571 Washington Street, Boston, which is Dorchester. 02124 zip code.
Just in case we want to send you a postcard. Okay. But Ulysses and Laury, here's my question for you right off the bat. You're in Worcester. Jeff is in Boston. Why Worcester instead of Boston for you guys?
Oh, let me kick that off. Worcester is a community that I've been involved with for the past 16, maybe 18 years. And having lived in this community as well, it just made sense, being the second largest city in New England. And, Laury knows the story that I almost thought that it was too big, but us working together, she's like, yeah, we can do this. So we ended up getting, 3 different licenses here, and couldn't be happier being in central Massachusetts.
And how has the opening gone? I think you've been open now for just over a week. Is that what I'm
over a week?
You made it.
It's a learning experience. We're learning, we're growing, we're learning our community, we're learning who the people are. I know, as you guys know, you don't get to practice selling until you get your certificate to commence operations.
Right.
So, it's been a great opportunity for us to just expand our consciousness.
Love that. I love that. And David, I know this is something special for you as well, because I know that you've given of yourself to the community to help them actually get to the starting line and open up the doors and teach them a little about the challenges. But as Laury just said, until you open the doors, you don't know what's going to happen, right? Ulysses, what's been the biggest surprise for you in the first week that you've opened?
Honestly, the love from family and friends. For us, we actually spent the first 4, and I shouldn't even say that's a surprise, to be honest with you, but we spent the first 4 days just with our doors locked and accepting family and friends in the local community to come out. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I can, appreciate the most is just the love that we get from the local community and, people who have watched the journey, us get through this.
How many stores are open in Worcester today? Now, at this point.
That's a great question. So we were the last to get our host agreement. That was the 15th, but I don't think that there's 15 open. There's probably around 10. But in terms of like who we are, we don't like to call ourselves a dispensary. We're the establishment because I'm here in our manufacturing space. We do have a final license there. I'm working on some infused pre-rolls to get our commenced operation. And then we're also getting some cars outfitted for our delivery license as well. So, not to compare, it's just that we're very, very different than everything else that's around.
Well, that was my next question is what differentiates you guys from others in the Worcester area besides the love of your community? Because I know that is important to you.
I mean, I think I'll add to that is that the fact that we're both educators. Am I frozen? The fact that we're both educators puts a different perspective to it. And also we have a concept of trying to prove to individuals what it's like to put capitalism, but define capitalism as human resources instead of monetary resources. So what happens when you put people first? That's the theory that's underpinning our entire business model. And that's what I think differentiates us as well.
Jeff, that's a good lesson for you to learn. You're following that one. Are you taking notes on this conversation?
I am. It's absolutely. I've been taking a lot of lessons from Laury. Laury's one of the reasons I'm in this industry. So I've been paying attention, always listening, and always, like she said, she's an educator. So I've been learning from her. So
isn't that what we all are, guys? Aren't we all educators? Because, and I remember, you guys know who Beth Waterfall is. She had a great quote. I'll never forget this. She goes, there really aren't any experts in cannabis right now, because we're still learning. The learning curve is still so high. We just had a veterinarian on from LA who was talking about, giving CBD to pets. And you talk about a learning curve. They can't even figure out, the damn laws for CBD yet and what we could put in for dogs, let alone for humans. And of course, you have to go through the whole bureaucratic BS out of Washington, D.C. and the FDA. So we're all learning by doing. And isn't that the best way to learn, guys? Yes.
Students, for sure. We're all students. I mean, to have that mindset will continue to grow,
Absolutely.
And if somebody comes into your dispensary, Laury or Ulysses or Jeff, this is definitely training for you. Okay. If somebody comes into your dispensary and says, look, I've never used this before, but I've got horrific arthritis. Okay. Mm-hmm. How do you walk them through the process of explaining to them the endocannabinoid system and how your neurotransmitters work? Or you're already shaking your head, Ulysses, because you're saying, don't confuse them with fancy words, right?
Well, it's just funny because you say people that come in that have never used. In this particular community that we're in, I'm not sure that we've seen any customers thus far that haven't at least used cannabis, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'll kick it over to Laury because she's got a sign.
Yeah, I will say there's two things. First, if you're running a marijuana business, you have to be very careful about the claims that you make about your product because it's federally illegal and has not been FDA tested. You can get in trouble for making any claims. So anytime you talk about cannabis, you have to talk about your personal experience. So the way I would approach it, I'm like, oh, wow. So what I learned is that I have an endocannabinoid system, and this is how it works. And even beyond that, I personally have been in a car accident. So I use a lot of these things myself. So I can talk from experience. Okay, this is how this bomb helped me. This is how this particular thing helped me. But I won't make any claims scientifically about what it does because that'll get us in trouble.
All right.
And you're going to tell me that Big Brother is actually listening to your conversation in your dispensary. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, they have a secret shopper program where the CCC will send a secret shopper.
Wow.
And they will ask you questions and you can get in trouble that way. So you never know who you're talking to.
Right. Wow. The secret shopper. I think that used to be called an undercover narc, guys. Isn't that what that used to be called?
CCC approved narcs.
So how do you, so do you have to use your own personal experience to explain it rather than recommending that this product will decrease your inflammation? Is that you can't do that, is what you're saying?
Absolutely. What you can say is it's helped me. I've heard it. I've heard what it's done in other people. Try it out and let me know what it does for you.
Yeah, and for the most part, honestly, Jimmy, is that people have lingering ideas around it, right? Like my grandmother, I can't say that she's a smoker, but she's heard that, balms and lotion help. You know what I mean? And other, old elderly people, this, I don't want to say it's a last resort, but they're like, hey, I don't want to take this medicine. Let me just try this. So I think the general public is very educated to the fact where, we don't necessarily need to have these crazy conversations. It's just like, hey, inexperience, this has definitely helped. And people know vaguely when they come in, for sure.
Jimmy, we got a question from the chat for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell us about your products. How's the flower? Who grows it? What strains do you carry? And what's your best indica?
What's the best what? What was the last one?
Indica.
That's indica. Wow. All right. So right now what I'm doing is working on a product, a pre-roll infusion, and it's an infusion of crumble and jelly breath. And the jelly breath is grown by the first Black cultivator on the East Coast, which is Just Incredibles, Reginald and his team over there. So for the past week, we've been doing a lot of packaging and pre-rolls of their strain called Gas Mask, and it's been our top seller. And it's been great. It's been great. So basically with the manufacturing side of things, we have an opportunity to bring in bulk material and then hand pick, hand select products that we can put out to the market. But in terms of strains, we have, I think, 42 different strains. I'm not going to lie, I don't know them all. I think our best indica is probably from Cultivate, which I believe is Chocolate OG. It's a high testing one, really good price point. And yeah, people just love it. So it's nice to have variety. Definitely nice to have variety.
And you guys are taking part in the High Times Cannabis Cup Challenge, correct?
Yeah, we got, I think, 75 bags to sell tomorrow. So first come, first serve. We open at 10 o'clock. Definitely come through if people are interested in that.
Do you want to walk me through how that works? Because I understand there's some, although I don't know if we can talk about discounts, but there's definitely some incentives to get involved with it, right? Is that accurate? Laury, you're the attorney here. Make sure I don't screw this up.
Well, it's the most bang for your buck. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, if you were to buy these products individually, the price point would be differently, but this is all compliant. The CCC is well aware of it. High Times has been great. We're facilitating it. So, the average price point, I think, is around 200, give or take.
Yep.
But you're basically getting a maxed out 28 grams. So if you were to try to get an ounce of weed now, it'd probably be closer to, I don't know, 300, 400 bucks. But, again, this is all compliant with the state. They're well aware of it.
Right. I want to make sure. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. That's for sure.
You seem like the nerd, Jimmy. Yeah, you're
I'm far from that. You know that, Ulysses. Okay, you know that. Hey, Jeff. From your perspective, what do you think you can learn from the experience that Ulysses and Laury have gone through that will help you get open, which is really your goal right now?
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you. So just right, maybe like a couple hours earlier, I called Laury just off the strength that I just submitted the our final architectural plans to the CCC. And then, it came back, we had to pay $1,500.
Right.
So I was like, $1,500 just to review plans that I just paid $5,000 for the license. So I'm like, are they trying to trick me? So I made a couple of calls, and I believe I called somebody that owns a dispensary that opened a couple of years, early last year.
Seed, right?
Yeah, Seed. And then he
loves Seed.
Yeah, he's like, I don't remember. He's like, I don't know, I don't remember. I'm like, you know what? Call. He's like, call somebody that was most recent. I'm like, you know what? I'll call Major Bloom. And he's like, oh yeah, call those guys. And then I just called Laury, and I got the answer. And she was like, yep, I paid it. I'm like, all right, say no more.
Dude, you know what's funny, Jeff? Tom is here doing a tour, and he called me too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, bro. He was
oh, just right after. Yeah. See, exactly. So like right after. So. Exactly. So, I mean, that's one of the best thing that I could say for myself, that I have a lot of people that I could just call, with whatever question or a text message. It's like, hey, whatever it is. And it just asks a question, I get the answer, and I thank you, keep it moving. So I've gotten, so much help, from beginning on. Like I said, Laury helped me with the application in the beginning. I mean, the application to be a EE, right? So from the very beginning. So she's done helped me out, throughout the whole process pretty much. So I'm sure, whatever it is that I need, I will continue to get that help. So, and I'm sure there's more things that I will need as I get closer to opening date, because, in my head, like, I mean, I'm glad I'm here today, because, certain things that I just learned and I just heard, and I'm like, I'm happy. And like, I just took some notes as far as, okay, opening date, maybe not worried about, well, I mean, not worried, but take care of your family and friends first, day one, you know what I mean? And hey, look at Tomas, you know what I mean? So again, you know what I mean? So it's a whole process, man. So, and I just love the fact that, everybody's so willing to help everybody. This is such a new industry and nobody is holding out information. So, I just love it. You know what I mean? Actually, another friend of mine, he's actually doing an internship at Garden Remedies in Newton. He's actually working there. So I was just like, man, I don't know. I wonder which one of my friends I'm going to ask, like, yo, can they give me an internship for me to come work there as a bud tender or whatever it is, just so I could feel like I'm in the game. I could, you know what I mean? I could see it just, so again,
David,
I'm loving
there's
it.
a great idea. And I know you're connected to the right people here. What about hands-on training? When we talk at the big
Don't even go down that road, Jimmy. That is
experiential learning.
last year. I got together with David O'Brien of the Cannabis Business Association in Massachusetts, and they wanted to do a mentoring program. And I was told not now by the CCC. And I don't know if the CCC has got a mentoring program up or running yet, but
Why?
Why
does he know?
So Roxbury Community College got one going on. So that's the one that he's part of. It's from RCC. So I don't know, if they have any relations with the CCC. I mean, I could find out more information. But I know he like the internship that he's going through is through RCC, Roxbury Community College.
See, now this is one of my biggest beefs with our friends in Washington, D.C., as they continue to develop a platform or a plan to go to federal legalization or expungement of records of those who've been incarcerated. How are we ever going to train people who have been unfairly put behind bars for nonviolent cannabis possession crimes and give them an opportunity to get into this industry without some kind of an internship or workforce development program? To me, it's a no-brainer. I don't get why this doesn't happen. Can anybody, David, unmute yourself and enlighten me. Unmute yourself, David. Go ahead.
if you've got a workforce development training program, it's likely funded at some level with federal money, and therefore you can't do anything with cannabis. So now you need a group that doesn't have federal funding to do that. That's where the CBA stepped up and they wanted to put a program together.
Right. And in fact, I've talked to some multi-state operators and I flat out asked them, what are you doing to help those who have been most impacted by the failed war on drugs? Do you have workforce development programs for those that perhaps, and of course, most of them give me spin when I ask those questions, but I do hope and think that down the road, that has to be part of this plan. I mean, you guys tell me, am I wrong? Am I barking up the wrong tree, so to speak? One of you has to unmute to answer the question and help me with this.
Laury looks like she's thinking it over.
Either that or she's frozen. I haven't figured out which there. Ulysses, you got some insight on this. I know you do.
Yeah, I was just looking at Laury. She might be frozen. And I caught the tail end. Can you repeat?
Hey, what's it?
So what I'm frustrated about is when I talk to either multi-state operators or federal lobbyists that are down there trying to impact policy. And I'm like, hey, it's all fine and dandy when you've got Senator Cory Booker calling on saying, look, this is a social justice bill. We have to give opportunities to people who have been jailed unfairly, an opportunity to get into this business. Well, you can't just have them show up and start selling weed in your store. You actually have to give them an opportunity to learn how to do that. You guys were talking about that when you opened up, that you're still learning how to actually go through that process. And of course, track the seed to sale experience, because that's what everybody has to go through to keep track of all this. So I guess,
well, one thing that we like to discuss is that, it goes beyond just the industry, right? Like when people have been harmed by prohibition, it's decimating to their community, it's decimating to their family. And, some people can be in a position to not actually want to be part of the industry. They just want to be part of healing. So I think that's one thing that's a common misconception, is that, oh, you got arrested for cannabis, come work in the industry. It goes beyond that. It really starts with healing communities and healing families that have been impacted by prohibition.
So how do we do that, Ulysses?
That is a great question. I'm going to defer to Laury because I'm sure she can answer.
Boom, boom. So the thing is that this is a very tough question, because in Massachusetts, the government broke families up. The government arrested people. Well, the government is forcing Ulysses and me to fix their mistakes. You following? With a direct impact program. And that's okay. We're willing to do it. We would have done it anyways. So the first step is the government has to step up and really do research on the harms they've done, instead of pushing it off onto marijuana businesses to take care of what they've done. If I spill something, I got to clean it up, right? I'm not going to force my little sister to do it, which is what the government is doing to us right now. Part one. Part two, how do we do that? It's through education. We have to continue to educate people to remove the stigma that is preventing them from even accessing this. Part three, we have to identify the issues that have actually been left. Ulysses talked about mental health. He talked about helping the community. For me, in my opinion, we have to mentally heal those who've been harmed. So it's about getting access to people on the ground, getting folks into mental health services, getting people into educational services, not necessarily to become marijuana entrepreneurs, but to become whatever they desire to do. But again, for me, it has to be on the government. Stop forcing these businesses to clean up the mess you created.
Right. And I will say that it's probably the job of not only the government, not only the businesses, but the individuals impacted as well, to want to be in a position to kind of trust, it sucks to say trust the government, but like you can't be closed-minded about it. So I feel like, and that's one thing that like we've always been open to, especially going through this equity program and the economic empowerment program. We know it's new, we know it's not perfect, but we're in a position to be like, hey, it's here and we're going to make the best of it. Where, I know a lot of weed smokers that are like, yeah, what have you been doing the past 4 years? And, you just like, oh, okay, this is materializing. Now we see it. But sometimes you have to see what's not there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it just plays into the part of not only the government, local businesses, but individuals to kind of open up and want to get help too as well.
Yeah. Are we educating the government at all, guys? Sorry, you don't have to answer that question. I think I know the answer.
Honestly, the USPTO feeling as if the marijuana is going to be legal created a panel, and I was lucky enough to be one of them, where we were educating the United States Patent and Trademark Office on cannabis. So it depends on which facet of the government you're talking about. The Department of Justice they've been educated since 1925 when the Panama Canal research went through. So I don't think I need to educate the government any further. They just need to stop lying to us.
That's
and do the right thing.
Spewing lies. It was further than not knowing, is them knowing and deliberately lying.
They've known in 1944. They've known, they know there's enough data on this shit. So I'm not educating people who are willingly ignorant. Do the right thing, y'all.
So Jimmy, I got a question for Ulysses, because I think this will be fascinating for everybody, right? When did the store open up, Ulysses?
Officially a week ago, we opened up our public doors.
Now let's go backward. When did you actually start to put all the pieces together? Right?
So I finished business school November 2016 is when Donald Trump got elected. Yep. And 1/1/17 is when I read the medical regulations to try to understand what all this happened. And then Laury and I met in May of 17, I want to say. So it's really been like over 4 years. But, prior to that, it's just being infatuated with the cannabis culture. So it's a couple lifetimes, really, to be honest with you.
So we've got somebody from New Jersey coming up next.
Right.
So I'm expecting we're going to have a fair amount of folks from New Jersey who are either going to be watching live or going to be looking at the clips when we post them. Walk them through what the steps were for you and how long the different steps took to get to the point of now you're open.
Yeah. So briefly, I mean, I think it starts with just having a passion and the endurance to do this. Because if you're doing it for money, those are all the wrong reasons for sure. Laury and I both came from corporate experience where we were making good money, but at the same time, we weren't fulfilled. Didn't feel like it was enough for us to make an impact on our community. So I think it starts there with having the passion. I would say next is the network, because as soon as Laury and I met, we kind of secluded ourselves into our own kind of network and realized that we can do this stuff together. And then also just having a good network to ask questions to, kind of what Jeff had mentioned, just being very open with people about discussing the trials and tribulations and what's needed to get through to the state. And then after that, I would say what's probably really important is putting up your own money. We didn't raise a ton of money. We didn't work with MSOs to get this done. I basically put in a ton of money in my own savings, moonlighting for many years in my sales management job, and then having the capacity to raise the money that we needed through our local community and a personal friend of mine that I played college football with. So we didn't really make it past the family, friends, and fools, if you will, stage where we got money from private investors, private equity, venture capitalists. We're blessed to be in a position to stay within those early stage funding. So I would say that plus having the capacity to get through licensing, you can do all that at a very low budget, especially if you have an expert like Laury on the team. But then I do know some people who are able to do it themselves as well. But I think a lot of people think that they have to raise a ton of money before licensing, which is not necessarily true. You just got to have grit and just know-how and endurance to keep going.
How long when did you have to start paying for the real estate that you're in?
Well, this is different for us because I know how to negotiate. I live in the community that we're working in, and I knew that this building was vacant for X amount of years. So it was the exact opposite. In fact, we ended up getting a check from the guy who had this building vacant for 20 years because he had to bring it up to code. So rather than him bringing it up to code, we're like, dude, just invest into the business. And we worked on it from that capacity. So
I love that. I remember that part of the story. Hey, Ulysses, congratulations to you and Laury. Congratulations in advance to you, Jeff, because you're going to get it done too, because I know you're determined to make it happen. So, and what better example than these guys right here in Worcester. So, first of all, thank you all for your hard work, for your passion, for your drive. You're welcome on this show anytime, and we wish you the best of luck. And I know where I can find you now, Ulysses. Okay, so I'm going to come visit you to Major Bloom, and I look forward to seeing the interior, getting a tour.
Jimmy, come through.
Yeah, just to
Thank you.
Just to piggyback what Ulysses has said, it's definitely that. I mean, a lot of people think that they need a lot of money to start this process. It's just, you just have to have a willing mindset to say, I'm going to do whatever it is that I got to do, show up to these meetings, get these networks, get these relationships, and just keep pushing. Over time, you're going to spend some money. It's $1,000 here, $1,500 here, whatever it is, or whatever amount of money. But, over time, that's when at the end, you realize you spend a lot of money, but it's not that you need $1.5 million or $4 million to start. You know what I mean? You just need to understand the rules. You just need to have some relationships. You just need to understand how to fill an application, how to put your name and an address on a piece of paper, and then just keep it going. That's really what it is. You know what I mean? Everything else that you don't know how to do, there's an expert there. There's an architect, there's an engineer, there's a contractor that you know what I mean? That you just communicate and say whatever it is that you need to get done, and then they'll take it that. You know what I mean? And as far as the money, whenever you put all that together, the money will come.
Fantastic.
If somebody wants to find your shop when you get open, where are they going to find it? If somebody wants to find your shop when you get open, where are they going to find it?
571B Washington Street in Dorchester, 02126. Right.
If somebody wants some weed today in the Worcester area, where are they going to find you?
What's the GPS? What's the GPS?
76 Millbury Street.
There you go. 76 Millbury Street in Worcester. All right, guys. Hey, thank you, David. We got to get the next group in here, but I want to thank you. There's some friends. Love that. Love those shirts.
Teed's here.
Good to see you. We're gonna
Thank
take
you for putting us on. Thank you, Jimmy.
Are you kidding? I'm not putting you on. I
No.
just invited you to my program, and you are welcome. And I love your smile, Laurie, Lucien. Keep it going. Ulysses, great to see you. Jeff,
Okay.
always a pleasure. David, I guess I'll see you after this break. We'll be back with more of Green Rush Live after
Peace
this.
out.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
Difference is building a solution for that individual, not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the costs low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand